What's good everyone, it's me, it's Count, here with a brand new Pokemon Go video. If you haven't noticed yet, there was a spawn point shakeup in Pokemon Go. You may have had some house spawns added into your area, or you may have had some house spawns disappear. And the reason for all of that is, of course, because they switched up a couple of the spawn points in Pokemon Go. And I want to talk about what this could mean. I have a couple of thoughts regarding these spawn point changes, and that's really what we're going to be discussing in today's video. So if you ended up enjoying it, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget that little bell as well. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Alright, so we have a bunch of new spawn points, or at least that's what people think it is. And we have a bunch of spawn points that were removed for other areas. And the reason for that is because Niantic, out of the blue and seemingly unannounced, they decided to shake up the spawn points in Pokemon Go. They moved a couple of spawn points. Like if you had a spawn point in your area, it's very likely it got moved to another area where there's just a lot more cellular data. And this was first reported on Twitter. A lot of people started noticing that their spawn points just got switched around out of nowhere, and yeah, I think this is pretty important for the future of Pokemon Go. Actually, if you open up the game right now in my house, there's actually one brand new spawn point. This was exciting for me because I didn't have any spawn points at my house before, but now I have at least just one, and it's this Purloin, so I'm just going to cast this real quick. Oh my god, okay, I'm going to use two hands. But in any case, yeah, I didn't have any house spawns before, but now I have at least one, which is nice, I guess. There's actually some people who had a ton of house spawns before, but now they actually have no house spawns, and this was reported all throughout Twitter. Now, what I don't think happened is Niantic completely removed spawn points and then added them. Like, I think what they did is they moved them around, as highlighted by this article by Pokemon GOHub, which I will link in the description below. They did a couple of case studies, and they found a lot of information regarding what exactly happened. Let's just go over it. So it looks like this is globally, which I think is very important. I think for a lot of players that were reporting what happened, it was more local, like it was here in the United States, but actually it's turning out that this is global, and for people who are out in Europe and Asia and Africa, like they're seeing this as well. It looks like they updated the spawn points based on cellular data. This is something that they've done in the past, but it's something that they haven't done in a very long time. So if you have an area that has a lot of cellular activity, well, you could expect to see a lot of brand new spawn points in that area. But on the flip side, for areas that do not have a lot of spawn density, it's probably because there isn't that much cellular data in that area. So yeah, you can still look at Ingress Prime if you want a good idea of where spawn points are located. Like if you're in Ingress Prime and you see a whole bunch of those data clusters. I actually don't play Ingress, so I don't exactly know what to look for, but apparently if you do play Ingress on top of Pokemon Go, you could pinpoint exactly where the brand new spawn points are. So if you want to know, if you want to kind of like a map, the visual map, you could just jump into Ingress and you could see it right there. Now again, there hasn't been any communication from Niantic regarding these new spawn points, but interestingly enough, I do think this is something we do have to talk about. It looks like Niantic is paying a lot more attention to their in-game map, their in-game kind of activity, and they want to make an adjustment for it. So honestly, I feel like this was a long time coming, and I feel like this is something Niantic should be doing more frequently, but unfortunately, we just haven't been able to see that. This is a nice little update that we've gotten to the map, but unfortunately, it's just way overdue, and I really hope Niantic considers doing this regularly, because for the longest time, I've been sitting in my brand new house and I've had 0 spawn points. So if I wanted to play Pokemon Go in any way, I was pretty much limited to incenses and remote PvP battles. So it's been kind of boring, and I find myself just not playing Pokemon Go, like opening up the app at all, like while I'm at home. And I'm pretty sure Niantic would like more user engagement, so it's nice that they're doing this. I'm really hoping for the future of Pokemon Go that they just constantly add and iterate on their game, that they are paying attention to where people are playing and where people are no longer playing, because let's be real here, like depending on where you live, depending on where you are at, you're going to have a community that's going to be active during some days and not really active during other days. Like for example, there's this one area where I live where people go there all the time. It's Schaumburg Town Square. I actually made a video about it. And it's kind of like this nice little central spot for people to go for like the raid days. Like it's a nice spot to go, like if you're just wanting to grind out Stardust and Pokestops. But unfortunately, the spawn density just isn't that great there compared to a lot of the other locations. And I really wish Niantic would pay attention to that sort of stuff, like if they were to update the game constantly based on cellular data, adding spawn points, moving spawn points to areas where there's just a lot of players, like that place would be a lot better. But unfortunately, because Niantic hasn't updated the game in quite a while, there just isn't that many spawns in that area, even though it's a nice central hub. So I really hope Niantic continues to iterate, they continue to update the game with their spawn points, because I think at best it'll just benefit the players, and that's something that players really like to see. So what does this mean for Pokemon Go? Well, I think it's quite simple. Basically, this is a really great sign. It shows that Niantic is willing and able to update their game files. So I really hope this is something that Niantic does regularly moving forward. Of course, the worst thing that can happen is that Niantic does this one time, and then they don't do it again for years down the road. You know, having a spawn point shakeup is really positive for the game. I know a lot of people are going to be frustrated because they lost some house spawns, but at the same time, I think big picture, this is really great for Pokemon Go. I'm seeing a lot of reports from my local community that certain areas that didn't have Pokemon before now have a nice cluster. I think that's great, mainly because there's places that people love to congregate for like raid days and for Stardust grinding, but there just isn't that many Pokemon spawns in those areas, but now there is. So I'm really liking that Niantic is shaking it up and that they're updating the game based on the current cellular data. I think this is something that they should be doing regularly. There's certainly a lot of things with the game that does need a lot of updates, a lot of improving, but this is one part of the game that I feel like gets very overlooked, and I'm really hoping that for us as a community, we continue to speak out, we continue to play in areas that we want to play in, and then we have Niantic constantly iterating and constantly updating their game files so that the game matches up with player activity. I think this is a very positive sign. I think for a lot of people who are taking this very positively, I think they're justified, but for a lot of people who feel like this is a big negative because they lost a bunch of house spawns, well, I think you should keep your chin up, because I honestly think Niantic is definitely paying attention to their game and how it runs and how it's, you know, they have all the data. Like, they know where people are congregating, they know where people are the most active. So yeah, I think this is just a very big step. I mean, this is a pretty small thing, right? Like changing the spawn points, like shifting them around, and you know, there's a lot of things in the game that do need fixing, like raids. Like there's a lot of bugs with it, there's just a lot of things wrong with raiding for rural areas. Like there's a lot of different solutions that Niantic could consider and could explore. Like for example, like I've been seeing this come up a lot, but scalable raid battles, like I would love to see that in the game, because rural players, like if they can't get the numbers for a raid, then at least they could tone down the difficulty of the boss to make it actually beatable for players with only 2 to 3 people in their raid group. And at the same time, maybe they could adjust the rewards as well to incentivize trying to get more and more people in your community involved. So, you know, like they could explore a lot of different things and just pay attention to the community and the active user base. Like this is a really great sign. The fact that they're catering to a lot of the data that they're getting, like maybe they could use that data to make adjustments in other parts of the game as well. Now, one thought that came up when I heard about this spawn point shakeup, it seems like a lot of the areas that were affected the most by this shakeup was residential areas, and that got me thinking, maybe what was influencing this whole spawn point shakeup was that class action lawsuit that Niantic just settled. and it had a lot to do with private property and residential areas complaining about trespassing because of Pokemon Go. Like, they removed a lot of Pokestops, especially in rural areas, from residential areas. And interestingly enough, it seems like the places that lost a lot of their house spawns were private neighborhoods that were gated or were inaccessible after certain hours, and people who would typically complain about Pokemon Go trespassing. So I really wonder if that is what's going on behind the scenes, but who knows? Again, I think this brings up the important fact that if you are inconsiderate, if you're trespassing, if you're breaking the law constantly, people who do not play Pokemon Go will take notice to that, and it will affect the game negatively. So make sure you're behaving like the best you can when you're playing Pokemon Go. Don't drive into people's driveways to catch a rare Pokemon. It's just not worth it. I think as long as we are being well behaved and we're being very responsible, we can have nice things in Pokemon Go. And if we're not, well, we're gonna lose a lot of those nice things. So yeah. Anyway, I would love to know your thoughts regarding this whole spawn point shakeup. I really think it's a big positive, but I know some of you think it's a big negative. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you get a bunch of brand new house spawns, or did you get a lot of your house spawns taken away? I would love to know your thoughts. Let's have a great discussion regarding spawn points. This is something that we don't really talk about as a Pokemon Go community, so why not get the discussion going right now? And if you ended up enjoying this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if it's your first time here. I really hope you enjoyed it, everyone. And yeah, I'm Count Jinsala, and I'll catch you all later. Hey guys, before I leave, I have to give a little bit of a spiel. I mean, when it comes to the YouTube algorithm, it's extremely difficult to gauge how successful you can be on YouTube. Like, there are some times where I have a ton of views on my videos, and there are some days where I just have no views on my videos, and it really comes down to the YouTube algorithm. And there's a lot of times where I get dinged for some of the songs that I pick or some of the footage that I show, and unfortunately it's because YouTube's copyright system is a little bit broken. But if you want to support this channel financially, I highly suggest you check out my Patreon. A link to it is in the description below. Your support definitely helps me out, and it helps support this channel because I would love to crank out more videos and increase the quality, and for that to happen, I do need your help. So definitely go and check out that link. And yeah, big shout out and big thank you to all of you for supporting my channel. I hope you enjoyed this video, everyone. If you did, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget that little bell as well. Check out the links in the description below. I'm Count Jinsala, and I'll catch you all later.